Everyone, it's Abby Glassenberg, the co-founder of Craft Industry Alliance. I am super happy you are here for our member spotlight. So every Wednesday we go live with one of our amazing members to learn more about their business, drop in their studio to see what they're working on, kind of find out more about their journey. So today's guest is going to be Rona the Ribbiter. Her name is Rona Herman and she's a traveling quilter. But Rona also just emailed me earlier to say that her internet connection was not so stable. So we're going to kind of see how it goes. If it's not working out, then Rona will be on soon and we will just reschedule. But hopefully it will work. Hey, Rona.
Hi.
How are
So
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I know you were having some internet connectivity issues.
Yeah, it's been going up and down, and so we're just on my phone. And because I live out in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, just internet connection on my phone can be spotty sometimes. So I usually try and rely on Wi-Fi. But today we're gonna fingers crossed and give it a shot.
All right, good. Well, so far so good, and it's great to see you. And I'd love to hear a little bit about your business. I know you have a passion for two things. One is travel, and it sounds like you've really been all over the United States. And the second is quilting, which is actually a little bit of a newer interest for you. So can you tell us about kind of how you're combining those two things?
Okay. Well, first, thank you so much for having me today. And to answer your question, so I started traveling when I was 6 months old, and it's always been a passion of mine. I think it's just the exploration of finding new things and discovering new things and new places and things like that. And quilting, that was actually kind of by accident or forced into it, I should because my sister got a new sewing machine for Christmas and she decided that I was going to learn to sew. It had been long enough. And that was probably about 10, 12 years ago now. And since then, all she did was teach me how to thread the machine and stitch in a straight line, and that was it. And I started working on my first quilt, which was for my mom, which she still has. It's horrible and she won't let me fix it, but she still has it. And it just, I think because I have such a mathematical brain and I love numbers and stuff like that, the quilting and me just took off like, what do they say, peas and carrots. And I started teaching fairly soon, but I still loved to travel, and I started I was continuing traveling for various different reasons. We've lived all over the country, and it was actually my first group of students that I took on a shop hop that I organized myself. And on our way back to North Carolina to Charlotte, one of my students, she turns around and she says, "Are all these stories of yours true, or do you just make this stuff up as you go along?" And I told her, I said, "I promise they're true." And so it was that, plus when I went to a quilt tour, or I wanted to do a quilt tour, I went online to try and find information about quilting related travel so that I could do more shop hops with groups and stuff like that. And there really wasn't a website out there that had all of that information combined into one. So I started one. Things kind of exploded from there.
That's fantastic. So are you formally trained in math? Is that your career?
Actually, no. My degree is, I have an associate's degree actually in IT,
Okay.
ironically. But I've
Okay.
just been a numbers, I mean, I come from a family of accountants, and yeah, numbers is just our thing.
That's
So
what you love. Right. Okay, great. And so you have created this website. It's called Rona the Ribbiter. And what can people find there if they visit? Like what kind of content are you putting on there?
actually, we have everything you wanted to know or didn't even know you needed to know about quilting related travel. So I have information on there about everything from shop hops and just road trip safety, airline travel, international travel. I keep lists of all the quilt shops in the United States that we try to update regularly, at least once or twice a month. I have running lists of all the quilt shows for 2021 and 2022 that we also try to update at least once or twice a month. I have a regular newsletter that I send out that has kind of all of the updates to the website every week, but also different things going on in the Rona the Ribbiter world. But yeah, everything, including quilting retreats, what they are, what to expect. I've just got all kinds of, specifically quilt tours. If you want to know about quilt tours, I've got a whole thing on there about what they are, what to expect, questions to ask, stuff like that.
So what is a quilt tour? Tell us a little bit about that for someone who's a quilt tour. I've never thought of that before.
So a quilt tour is actually organized by a tour company usually. There's, I think, about 5 or 6 major ones out there. A lot of them will organize a tour just for quilters to go to a specific location. Like the one I took was to Ireland with Craft Tours. That was in 2017. And our particular tour, Master Quilter Mark Sherman was with us. And so we had 3 kind of mini demonstrations along the tour, but we also it's a tour, so we got to drive all around Ireland and stuff like that. But it's usually always geared towards quilters, and everybody on the tour with you is quilters. So it's basically a regular tour. It's just all quilters, and a lot of them try to include stops at quilt shops, or they'll revolve around a quilt show, one of the national shows, like England. I know several of them go around the Birmingham Festival of Quilts. There was Tokyo, stuff like that.
And how are you keeping track of all of the quilt shops in the United States? Because that's fascinating. I think those lists are something that people would be really interested in. And as far as I know, there's not really like a big digest elsewhere where you can find a comprehensive list like that.
Yeah, for the shops themselves, it's listed out by state. And what I do is it's kind of a mixture of Google searches, basically, but I also rely a lot on my followers and subscribers, because if new shops open, they'll find me or they'll find my website and they'll send me a message and let me know, hey, we're open. Like one just opened in May and sent me a message, so I got them added. So it's kind of a mixture, but the ones that we have already on the list, I check a lot by Facebook. That's actually one of my #1 ways, because if they're posting regularly, then I know automatically they're up and they're doing great. So things like that.
And do you have all 50 states?
Almost. We've only got a couple more that I'm finishing putting together, and then we'll have all 50 states up there. But we also have a list of quilt museums around the world. Like a fun fact, there are more museums around the world than there are here in the United States. Total.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I would think because we have 50 states, I would think that we would have the most. But yeah, when you combine like all of the European museums, they're actually quite popular.
good to know. Yeah, that's so fascinating. So okay, this is a huge resource for people who are interested. And how did COVID impact your business with travel? I know the travel industry took a really severe hit over the last, year and a half or so. So how did you have to regroup?
Well, ironically, COVID is actually what pushed the website, because before COVID hit, I was working on my first book that was going to be a quilter's book to Ireland. In fact, I was supposed to spend the entire month of May last year in Ireland. Everything was set. I had the quilt samples ready to go, and then everything shut down. So I kind of mourned for a couple weeks. I'll admit I cried. But then I decided, you know what, I can either wallow or I can start fresh. So that's kind of what I did, is I just decided to focus on the website and build that and then see what happens. And as far as touring or traveling during COVID, I did travel. I actually started traveling June of last year. I did practice all safety precautions and stuff like that, wearing masks, washing my hands all the time. We really did. I even bought so many of those little hand sanitizer things that I started selling them in little kits. But then in June, I would always go to Nevada for my mom's birthday and the Reno Quilt Show, which of course there was no show, but I also wanted to use it to kind of see how the different travel industry pieces were handling COVID, because Las Vegas had just reopened. So Mom and I flew to Reno, and then she and I drove down to Vegas. And I was actually quite impressed at how many lengths that the casinos went to really make sure everybody was safe, but still could, start getting back out there. So then I started writing, of course, all of it in all the stuff I was seeing and all of that, sharing in my newsletter. And then I started getting more questions, and people were really liking what I was, all the tips and things that I was sharing. So that really helped reinforce, okay, I'm on the right path and we're going to keep going with this. So,
Yeah.
and then that coalesced and I finally wrote a book, just not the one I thought it would be.
Okay, so what is the book?
So the book, actually, there's two of them, but it's Tips for the Traveling Quilter. And I need to show the book.
Yeah, hold it up. Okay. All right. Tips for the traveling quilter. Okay, so what's that
So,
now? Like have me.
so that this book has everything. When I go to shows now, we're back in person with quilt shows, and everybody thinks they're just a list of the shops in the country. But it's not. It actually is all of my best tips and explanations and everything that I've put together over the last year and a half about all things travel and quilting related. So there's everything in here, shows, what different types of shows they are, what to expect, how to plan for them, how to not get overwhelmed when you go to a national size show, how to pack. There's all kinds of packing tips in there. Like when I went to the quilt market for the first time a couple of years ago, and I ended up having to Uber over to Target and buy a new suitcase because I had acquired so many new things.
You're not the only one. Yeah.
So I put that in the book as well. Okay, I think my phone just kind of went.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit choppy.
Okay, am I back? You're back on my side.
Yeah, you're good for at least
Okay.
the next few.
Right. Okay. So yeah, with market, I decided to learn from that, write about it, and then came up with some really great packing tips to avoid having that happen. Also saving on baggage fees, stuff like that. So then there's also road trips, shop hops, quilt tours, quilt cruises. There's international travel information in there, also post-COVID, getting back out on the road. And then just for fun, because I am a pattern designer at heart, so I put in a couple of quilt patterns in the back. And then there's also my favorite travel bag that is my number one. I have about 6 of them that I use for everything. So, and then of course, because I talk about all kinds of lists and things like that in the book, I had to make a planner that goes with it. So the planner has all of your checklists, packing lists, everything like that inside. I threw in a bunch of games and coloring pages, fun stuff. There's even a list of my favorite games I like to play at quilt retreats, stuff like that. So it's everything you need to know all in one little set.
That's fantastic. So is this something that like a local quilt shop could carry? Because I could imagine quilt shop customers coming in, seeing this and saying, oh, wow, that's just perfect for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have both of them. I are wholesale. I do have wholesale for them. In fact, we just got home last week. Yeah, last week. Time is I can't follow time anymore. But my mom and I drove because, like I said, June I always fly out for her birthday. So I worked the quilt show, and we drove in an RV from Reno, Nevada, all the way here to North Carolina. So the whole time stopping by quilt shops, interviewing quilt shops. And several of them also purchased the books to put in their shops. We're in, I think, 4 different states now, quilt shops for the books. And then, of course, I have my patterns. And that actually leads to me to the one thing that I will say right here. I wasn't going to announce it until my newsletter tomorrow, but so
While
this
we're here.
yeah, why not? So this cross-country trip, another reason for it is we were filming. And so this September, I'm launching my big YouTube channel, which is going to be all of my best tips and our adventures and things on the road, kind of behind the scenes of shows, stuff like that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That is amazing. Good for you. That's so, so cool. That sounds great. I'm really excited for you. I feel like you've found this incredible niche where, as you said, like there was a hole in the market. Nobody was really specializing in bringing these two things together. And so you clearly have such a passion for both of them, and it's just ideal. So, so shops who want to stock this book should get in touch with you directly, and they can set up a wholesale order through you.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely.
that's fantastic. And then people listening who maybe aren't a shop but just want to follow along, is signing up for your email newsletter is probably the best way to make sure that they're getting everything.
Absolutely. I send out, so you can sign up for my newsletter on the website, ronatherribbiter.com. I send out, it's usually right around once a week. Sometimes I miss a week because things happen, but it's usually right around once a week. And that's actually how you get special coupons and savings that I offer through my newsletter. Like I said, all kinds of updates on what's going on. Anytime I update like the quilt show lists or the museum lists, things like that, I send those in the newsletter, all that kind of stuff. Everything quilting travel related, definitely want to sign up.
Yeah, and then if you're traveling to a new state and want to check out some shops, visit the Rona the Ribbiter site and look up the state you're going to, and most likely there will be a list there of quilt shops, and you can find the shops that'll be near you. So that's just a huge something, resource to know about. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
So
we also have we also have a traveling quilters group on Facebook where if you have questions, like people have been, if they're traveling through North Carolina and they want to know some of the cool places to go, things like that, we have a group specifically for that.
that's amazing. All right, this is so good. I'm very excited for you. I love your
Oh, thank
business.
you.
I love what you've created and built. It's a huge resource for the industry and for quilters and consumers alike. So I just truly appreciate it. And we love having you as a member of Craft Industry Alliance too.
Oh, thank you so much, Abby, and thank you for everything you guys do. You guys have been, I've learned a lot about, the business side of things and all of that through the Craft Industry Alliance. It's a really, really great resource, and I'm very thankful that it's there.
Yay. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody who joined us today. And we will see you next week for our next member spotlight. Bye everybody.
Bye.